Good afternoon. It's still morning for me. I just flew in from California where I reside, and I kind of dodged a few fires on the way and an earthquake that was centered in the town I live. So it's very nice to be here in Washington, D.C. I want to thank John for that very gracious introduction. Mostly, I want to thank him for pronouncing my name right. This has kind of been a problem most of my life where my name is pronounced Sohm. It's S-O-H-M. And occasionally I'll be asked to speak now at an event, and more recently it was in an event called Food Chain. And unfortunately, the person that filled out the little name card, like many of you have on your neck, was slightly dyslexic. They had all the right letters, but they weren't in the right sequence. And I, being into wide-angle views rather than close-ups, excuse the pun, I basically didn't look at the tag. Well, number one, you should always look at your tag. So when I picked it up, again, it was the right letters. It was this. And if you look, if you look closely, it's spelled S-H-M-O. So, very shrewdly, I put my tag on, and then throughout the conference, people started walking up to me and say, "Hey, Joe Schmo, what do you know?" So after a while, I thought, my God, you couldn't make this up. This is completely absurd. Other people were calling me Joe the photographer, but that guy's balder than I am. But you can call me Joe. I'm the eyes of the common man. I'm honored to be part of your close-up view of the nation's capital. And I understand most of you just arrived in the last day or two. Have any of you, what have you seen so far? Can you tell me, give me an idea of...
Washington Monument.
Washington Monument?
Memorial.
Yeah.
Vietnam Veterans Wall.
What do you plan to see? Or should I ask Sam to see what he's going to show you? When you go back home with your students, with your children, or even your parents or your friends, how do you think you will take this home with you? How will you share it? In pictures. That's exactly the point. And this is one of the reasons I do what I love, because I too love the American story, but I like to tell that story with the camera, Exhibit A. So, like you and what John was saying, I was a former teacher, not a farmer, but a farmer teacher. That's a Midwestern accent, if you didn't notice. And I was an American history teacher, but basically I was more in love with the story of America, and I had more interest in the philosophy of America. And ultimately, I learned from actually John's wife that if you're a teacher, you're not supposed to smile till January. And I was less a person for giving discipline and more a person that required much discipline. So consequently, I was looking for a larger classroom. And today, that's what my project is called, Visions of America. And the photos can be found in hundreds of photos, not only published in textbooks and magazines, but really across not only the United States, but the world, but specifically in this book. And I should say, if you are interested in the book, it's too heavy to carry with you on the plane. So it does come with a small little chiropractor's gift certificate in case you throw out part of your back. It's 8 pounds, and in the new economic reality, I was thinking one of the best ways maybe to market it was not by its $75 price tag, but by the price per picture. So I basically came up, I think it's only 7 cents a picture. So if you just want one picture, you can cut that up. So as John was describing, I consider myself a photo historian, and specifically instead of a pen, I use the camera as my tool. I tell the story of America in pictures, and most recently in various ways, in music, images, and lyrics in this project. In fact, recently I was looking at a sign in a camera store, which basically is where I deposit most of my revenue. And I was looking at the word camera, and then all of a sudden I was going, Now I'm from California, so you have to process this. But basically, if you re-scramble those letters, it's almost an anagram. Take the C, move it around. Camera almost spells America. Now, you can try this at home. You can spell it out. The only thing it's missing is the eye of the camera. So I figured the camera was a great way for me to tell the story of America. I'm particularly attracted to the Marquis de Lafayette quote, "The moment I heard America, I loved her." And as John said, that can be a bumper sticker or it can be a profound love. And I think as you come to Washington, D.C., you will come to love her as well. I also have a belief in personal destiny, and it's not in a karmic way, in an Indian or religious way, but it's more like I guess you would say metaphorically, Michelangelo that would see a sculptor in this piece of marble. And I think in your own life, if you have this sense of your own purpose, that you can kind of eke out the path that takes you where you want to go. Now, mind you, as I told you, in front of the classroom, while I was comfortable moving my jaws up and down, I clearly didn't feel like that was the particular place I should be in order to be in that classroom. And as teachers, some of you I know are government teachers, and other ones cover civics, which unfortunately is not as often as covered in schools as it could be and should be, and also American history. But basically, the story of America is in those details in the books. And I have to find my trail. So my personal trail and personal story began on the banks of the Mississippi, just off old Route 66. Now, these are the clues of how you find your purpose. So my purpose was where I was born. I was born in St. Louis in a small town called Webster Groves. And ironically, in the town I grew up, they actually, 60 Minutes, or not 60 Minutes, CBS, isolated my community as the most typical community in the United States. And I went, there must be something here. I'm typical. Well, after all, I am Joe Schmo. So the eyes of the common man. So consequently, I went on, I actually bought my first house. Well, years later, I found my first house was in Jefferson County, my guy. And Jefferson County at that time was actually geographically the population center of the United States. So now the story is emerging. We've got the eye of America with a camera, with the most typical community in America growing up on the banks of the Mississippi, and he's named Joe Schmo. The story starts to emerge. Here in the Midwest, we're the river that separates the East from the West. Frequently in St. Louis, one of the things I like about it, and if you grew up there, you could attest to this, is that basically they call it the last city of the East or the first city of the West. That's why that big gateway arch is there. So if Joe Schmo grew up in St. Louis, I guess you could say it's sort of like where Superman came from, which is Krypton. So we would specialize as a youth off of Route 66 of getting lost. That was my sole purpose. Getting lost and then ultimately not doing a very good job of it because I ultimately found my way home and I ultimately found my way back to Washington, D.C. But this became almost an obsession in my youth, and it became an obsession as, I'm embarrassed to say, as an adult too. I have spent more time getting lost than most of you people have been found. So, in fact, that almost became my daily commute. Destiny, this was my destination, or no destination at all. And this is where I find my photos. These photos are easy to find. You know where the Jefferson Memorial is. You know where the World War II Memorial is. You also know where the U.S. Capitol is, and you will know where the Lincoln Memorial is, because Sam and others will take you there.